podcast excellence since 2005. This is the King of Podcasts radio network, kingofpodcasts.com.
You know, when I listen to music and try to think, what songs have actually premiered in 2025? There's not that many.
The King of Podcasts radio network proudly presents the Broadcasters Podcast. Here is the King of Podcasts.
It is absolutely freezing right now in my studios because of the fact that it's not a normal thing for the studios where I record this program are supposed to be so cold. I mean, again, I'm in South Florida. I know I shouldn't complain, but there is a significant difference when you're used to 90-degree temperatures, and it's half of that right now outside. And you know, I don't want to do one of those things where I start turning on the heater and things like that, because I always hated going up to north, you know, they say New York or Chicago or wherever, and you go into every store when it's a cold day or cold night, and every place you go into, it's stuffy and you feel like your nose is going to bleed, and I feel like my ears are going to go crazy. I can't do it. So, I mean, it's not so bad at the moment. Like, I am covered up, but it's like I could use some gloves right now to kind of keep my hands warm. I don't know why, but like that's the first thing right now these days as I get older, it's my hands. Don't know why, but it's just how it is. Now, tonight's program, I want to go and talk about the fact that we're about to wrap up the month of January, and we are pretty well behind on music. Of course, there's new songs that come out every week. I mean, I look forward to Thursday nights where I get to go ahead and go to my Spotify and I get to download music, or not download, but add new music to my playlists, right? And I do it, and it's one of my favorite things to do all week. Great way to start the weekend. But man, there's just not anything that really stands out. There are those songs that are just sticking. There's so many songs that lingered around from last year. After the holidays, you see the songs reset. We're now at a full reset now. And the only thing that's really stood out that has made a real dent into any of the charts at all is the new Bad Bunny album. Debes de más fotos, right? Which is a good album. Hell, I mean, of what the tracks are, I got about 7 or 8 of them I'm playing right now on my Spotify, and they're really good. And most of them are the ones that are up on the top of the charts because he decided to diversify again. This time he decided to go ahead and let's do some more salsa music. Let's do some more dembow type stuff. Let's do some more, I guess the stock reggaeton is still there and some other kind of like ballad type stuff. So he did mix it around this time, and, it was good. So good to him for bringing out a new album. But other than that, who else? We're living off everybody else. And, the Grammys are here, and now everybody's like, okay, all the artists from last year, their music is still playing because there's nothing else out there. When you see what songs are jumping up high on the charts right now, it's all Bad Bunny. It's okay with Bad Bunny, but the thing is, that's the only thing that's actually making any traction. Where's the other new music coming from? I know SZA came out with an album, or a deluxe album, and also it kind of coincides with her movie One of These Days that she started with Keke Palmer. I watched it over the weekend. It was like a woman's version of Friday. It was okay. It was all right. It definitely wasn't horrible. The story was good. It wasn't as funny, but it wasn't bad. Like, I liked the characters. That was the one thing. I mean, I did like the story, and I liked the two characters. They were fun, and they were cool. And so, that was fine with me. Other than that, not much else. And I'm just saying to myself, well, okay, what's next? When it comes to music, there's not much else that's been out there. And the Little Baby put on a new album, right? Or the Baby? No, Little Baby, excuse me. One of those, right? I know, it's a Little Baby. And I saw that, and nothing really made a dent off of that. And there's not much else. And I don't know if it's just a matter of where certain artists are never going to come back with another album. They're just going to go by the wayside. And there's no artists that really can retain themselves and put out another album or more music that really stand out without it being too disposable. But we are in such a short attention span as music lovers right now today. Pretty obvious. And radio doesn't help themselves by playing some of the songs that are still somewhat disposable and still playing them a year later. It doesn't work well. It's not a good idea. But they're going to do it anyway. I look at the charts right now and I say to myself, okay, in the current list of charts where I'm looking all across the board, okay, I'm looking at Billboard, the iTunes worldwide charts, the Spotify charts, and YouTube. Best way to give me a full setup of streaming and radio right now and how far behind it is. Okay, right off the bat, we'll start with YouTube. I usually go to the other charts. We'll go with YouTube right now. United States right now. This is for the week ending January 16th because the 23rd has not come out yet. So Lady Gaga's Down with a Smile, number one song. It's 22 weeks that's been there. And among streams, it's roughly 11 million streams. Well, that's the daily. I want the weekly. Where's the weekly? Or maybe this is the weekly. Okay. Well, I don't know. Oh, no, it offers a daily. That's what it is. Okay, got it. So 3 weeks at number one. Then Rosé's Apathy is number two right now and stays where it's at. But it was also 3 weeks at number one. Then Bad Bunny's DTMF went all the way up 51 notches to number three as of last week. That's where the crossover, where the album came out on a Sunday as opposed to a Tuesday, or as opposed to a Friday, and they just kind of like shook things up because he kind of did it midweek instead of on a Friday where we would kind of expect a new album. Now, Benson Boone, Beautiful Things. It's now 52 weeks on the chart. 52 weeks. And the song's still being played heavily on radio. We know that. Kendrick Lamar, TV Off, Shabuzi's a bar song, Kendrick Lamar, Not Like Us, and G3 Jello and Tweaker, that's your top 10. So that's there. Between, 4 and 11 million streams each in the U.S. for YouTube. If I go to iTunes, Pate is number one. That with a Smile. 2, Messy is on here at 3. And it's been number 3 for 11 weeks now. And it's been on the iTunes chart for 65 days. New charter with Dream Theater by Midnight Messiah. That's a new song I haven't heard of yet. Billie Eilish's Birds of a Feather is 5. Zhang Jihan is Lost in London. That's another artist I've heard of, but they're new on that chart. Teddy Swim's Bad Dreams is 7. Gracie Evans' That's So True is 8. Teddy Swim's Lose Control is 9. Shabuzi's Bar Song is 10. But still, look at all those songs that are so very much familiar. And then if you talk about the days, Bar Song has been 287 days on iTunes. Lose Control, Teddy Swims, 564 days. And Bad Dreams, 133 days. Again, that's 6 months, roughly, or actually 4 months. And then Birds of a Feather is 252 days. And that was about 161 days. It's just, we're going so far back into 2024. There used to be a thing where, like, if you'd have like year-end charts, you would hear a little bit of a crossover of what songs at the end of the year would still roll over. But if there's such a rollover now, there's something weird about that. iTunes is a very interesting chart because of all the other songs that come up here that all of a sudden you see and like, what's going on here? What a different change to this. And then I look at Spotify's weekly chart for the U.S. right now. I won't go to the global yet, but we'll go to the U.S. right now. Bad Bunny occupies the first 3 spots. And the streams are amazing. So now, 18 million streams for DTMF. Baile Involvidable is 13 million. Nueva York is 12 million. It just takes up right there. Look at all the streams right there. Spotify obviously gets a lot of traction, and they do a lot of spins here. Down with a Smile's 4. Luther, 5. Kendrick Lamar. That's So True, 6. TV Off, 7. Tyler, the Creator, Sticky is 8. And then Bad Bunny's Voy a Llevarte a PR and Belda are 9 and 10. Strong. And then you still have some songs that will still stand out that are in the top 20 that are, long-standing chart hits like Birds of a Feather, Apathy, and Sailor Song at 13. But then what I look at now is that in the global, it's also a much different story because Bad Bunny's number 1 with DTMF, but then Lady Gaga Down with a Smile, 2. Rosé Apathy is 3. And then Bad Bunny comes back in 4 and 5. That's So True, 6. Birds of a Feather, 7. Bad Bunny then closes out the top 10, 8, 9, and 10 respectively. and 11 if you want to count that. Spotify, I feel like, is the chart that actually is fostering new music. Because at least in the charts here, sure, some songs are going to be standing out because you can still be there. Birds of a Feather, 35 weeks. That's So True, 13 weeks on Spotify. Apete, 13 weeks. Down with a Smile, 22 weeks. And as we know, there's some bona fide artists there that are going to get the crossover. And, you know, with their names, and knowing they've already had previous albums before, then, yeah, you're going to definitely hear about them. How it's going to be going. But so much occupying the charts of just other stars that are just like, where's new stars that are going to be coming into the play? We always see something like this where you would think there would be some new artists that you want to get them out in front at the very beginning, especially if you want to get them in year end, you want to get them in Grammy nominations, you want to get them in Billboard Music nominations, whatever. But where's that? Are there just not any artists that are just prepared to go? Like, that means the record labels are dead in the water. They don't have anyone prepared. They don't have anyone prepared for 2025. They just don't. So what do you do next? Does that mean that streaming is completely dependent upon viral music? And of course, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, others, they're the ones that will provide virality. Because you will find music that will come up on these channels and they will become viral. Spotify's supposed to be doing videos soon, which will also be encompassing into this as well. Who is the authority on music right now? Billboard has a setup, but their methodology is still lacking overall. So for now, in the radio songs estimates at the moment, for radio on Billboard, this is what they have for their radio songs estimates. Look at the amount of days on all these songs in the top 10. Like, let's just talk top 12. Radio doesn't want to go ahead and do anything about it. And let's go and also pick between the other charts that are on here, just to give you an example. So a bar song is still number one on the radio songs chart. 254 days. Down with a Smile, 156 days, number 2. Stargazing, Miles Smith, 154 days. Which, by the way, if you mention the UK, it's even much longer. But it took time to get over here. Espresso, 270. Birds of a Feather, 210. Then it gets a little bit lighter because you got Taste of Pretty Carpenter at 138. Morgan Wallen's Love Somebody, 195 days. Chloe Wetzel, Jesse Murph, High Road at 125. But then look down. We got 4 songs that have been around here for months and months and months. Teddy Swims, Lose Control, 432 days. Benson Boone, Beautiful Things, 41 days. Hozier, Too Sweet, 282 days. Post Malone, I Had Some Help, 259 days. Across the board. And I'm saying to myself, we have stagnation. A real serious level of stagnation. And when I look at the songs charts as well, how many songs do you see that are new on a regular basis? There just really isn't. I mean, among the iTunes chart, if I looked just for this week's chart right now on the worldwide, I'm just looking right now, let's just look at the top 100 at the moment. There's a new song from Coldplay's in here new, but it's not. It feels like I'm falling in love. That's a song from last year. Let me look at here. Star Academy and Ebony with Unforgettable. That's a new song. And the Star Academy and Marine also with a song. And it's like, okay, completely out there stars that would just come up the chart and down quickly. And then if I look on here and I keep looking, okay, Papa Roach has a new song. Even if it kills me, that's a new song. There's a posthumous single from Tina Turner that's on this chart now. And MGMT with Kids, that's the highest charting song right now that's familiar on the new chart. And that's it. Like, it's like, okay. And Puppets Can Control You, One OK Rock is also on this list. And as for Spotify, on their weekly chart, let's go for the global from last week. If I had to pick new songs that are on here, I'm looking, I don't see any. There's not one listed. On the 100, none. None. Something wrong with that. And there are songs that come out. I find them all the time. Like, I'll tell you what, in some genres, they are cranking out songs like it's like a bakery. Dominican music, the dembow music, I get that all the time. Reggaeton, they always got a couple of songs that come out that are new from some, familiar artists. But that's it. It's like, it's so light right now. Like, one of the best things that Spotify has is the release radar feature. So you're going to get a good hour and a half of new music that you have not heard yet. And you can go to, of course, a New Music Friday and all that. And you can find a lot of the music. And some of it's just not good after the first couple that are on that list. That's what happens. But you get a chance to at least sample some music. But what is it about this time of year where we have to wait until basically March for new music to really start coming out? Because remember, from last year, of a number of the albums that we had that came out and released last year, you got to say to yourself, it took a while for all this music to come out. And of course, you might have had some singles that would have come out, but it's like, if I had to just even go in right now and just like, and find out what were the biggest album releases. Last year we had in January 21 Savage, Kid Cudi, and Kali Uchis. Nothing came out of that. Like, there were songs, but like really nothing really came out too much. Now we did have, in 2024, we did have Taylor Swift with another release of an album. We're again Beyonce and Ariana Grande. But again, Beyonce was well early in the year. Ariana Grande was well early in the year. There are albums that are expected to be released, but never got released in 2024. We had Chappell Roan. Well, she was already had her album out, and it just got very popular again. And there's talk of some other stars that are very familiar that are supposed to be coming back out with music. Supposedly, Tate McRae has another album coming out. Selena Gomez is working on new music. Rosalia, Rihanna's supposed to be coming out with a new album. Lorde, Lil Nas X, Lana Del Rey, Harry Styles, Frank Ocean, Cardi B, and The Weeknd. The Weeknd we're supposed to be holding up on waiting for something from him as well, but nothing's happened yet. I don't understand the part about why we don't have music that come out right away and why it's taking so long. And that's the part I really don't understand. So I want to take from my description I have written for this week that I went ahead and curated just to get a lot of information off of it. Because I wanted to go and make the point and make some things clear. Now, as I said, we are in a stagnation crisis with music. While streaming charts overflow with diverse genres and emerging artists, radio airwaves are trapped in a time warp dominated by familiar names and predictable formulas, and this growing disconnect between how music is consumed online and who gets played on traditional radio is raising concerns about the industry's future and the shifting of musical innovation. We used to have particular TV shows or music shows that were on television or that would be on the radio that would give us a chance to go ahead and sample new music. So radio doesn't have any real syndication of any new music that's out there that we can actually hear new music. Okay. American Top 40 and Ryan Seacrest, it's just an antiquated list. The music they put on there is so old. It's so unfamiliar. And of course, it's so curated. It's controlled by the big corporate radio giant iHeartRadio. If you look at the media-based chart they put out there every week, if a song raises up one notch or three notches, that's about it. There's no such thing as seeing a large rise or a large fall on those charts. It doesn't happen. We've talked about it. I'm a broken record right now, but it's that time of year we talk about it again. It's what they're going to do. And I know if I went through all these stations and what they're playing right now, there's not much they're working off of. Like if Mediabase would actually put out a list where I see it right here, where I can see how many weeks songs are on a chart, I can see it everywhere else, but they don't have it here. But radio is so controlled and so contrived. If it was new music discovery, I did several episodes last year about it. They would actually help themselves and help music in general. You think about what shows we used to have on television that used to be so important to us. That would be outlets for music. So from the 50s into the 80s, we had American Bandstand. You think about Soul Train. You think about, I think about Dance Party USA. I think of Club MTV. I think of MTV Unplugged. I think of just all those kind of shows. And of course, even the late night shows would have certain artists that would be performing. I mean, Jimmy Fallon still does it, right? But you might catch the clips, but it doesn't get viral. None of that gets viral. Saturday Night Live doesn't really get viral either. Like, when do you see people that are actually ranting and raving over some artist that performed on a show live? Even the Grammys or the MTV Music Awards, the Video Music Awards. No. Those particular shows don't resonate with anyone, and they don't reach anyone, and they don't make a difference in the ratings. Meanwhile, over in the UK and BBC, right? They got the Brit Awards. They're set up for the Live Lounge, the Radio 1 Live Lounge, and other things that they have where they have other shows they can have people performing. I think Later's still on there with it, right? So like they have shows that they are doing something where people are performing and you can see the artist live. We don't even have any TV shows where we can see an artist live. I mean, hell, we got all these music shows that are either The Voice or Dance with the Stars or American Idol, but those artists are just like on the come up. But we never see any other artists that we can see that we're going to see a performance from. I mean, what's the one live performance that we can see every year that's going to make a difference in the charts? Super Bowl. So Kendrick Lamar is going to go ahead and benefit from that in his last album. But what else is there that's like real significant? Like, okay, we're all going to pay attention to what's being played, and that's going to help generate interest in the music. Like, what is the one outlet that has crossover appeal that a lot of people will watch and catch? I'll tell you like this. I don't understand where, like, if you have live streamers that are on, okay? With all these streamers on Twitch or they're on Kick or they're on YouTube or wherever. Why some of these music artists, are they just restricted from actually performing on their own or like performing on somewhere where we just have a place where we can just have the artists perform live? And don't tell me like Good America. I mean, yeah, Good Morning America does it, or Today's Show would do it during the summertime, but like it doesn't make a difference because nobody's paying attention. But it can't be that hard. Like, sports is so popular and so viral, and like you can get millions of people to watch on network TV or cable or online or whatever. Why doesn't music get that same kind of feeling? Why can't music in general? Are we just feeling like, because first of all, the artists that are going to be performing, they are going to be playing on like some kind of a backing track or just some kind of music that's out there. It's just be them with a microphone, and they're not going to do an acoustic performance, or the fact that because the music is not any way it can be done acoustic. Like country artists, you can still see because they're still playing instrumental. But the digital stuff from all the other artists, yeah, I guess you don't have anything. Or some of these artists don't want to play live. I don't understand that part either. And if they do, we're lucky we get to hear anything about it. Like, I'm going to tell you, Sabrina Carpenter was on the Live Lounge over there last year, I think it was, right? At the end of last year. And she was great. And I saw clips of it. I'm like, why can't we have this here? Why is America so stuck on certain ways where we can't change anything around? We can't make any difference and just carve out a niche for music to be important. Is it because the record labels are just so damn greedy? I mean, they are. But the record labels, they're trying to act like they're from the moment of extinction. Like they're going to run out of control. Because, of course, they're trying to go and control the artists now. More on their merchandise, more on their touring, and everything else. They want to go and consume everything that artist is making money off of for themselves. Which can't be the case. So what else is next? I mean, we know this obvious that there are certain artists that will not go out touring much anymore because there's not enough money for it, or it just costs too much to do it. And then how much are these Ticketmasters, these other Live Nation places are going to be charging for tickets? The other problem too. So when I put this through AI, they actually pulled out a New York University musicologist named Dr. Emily Chen that actually talks about how it feels like we're living in two different music worlds. Streaming allows for niche exploration and personalized discovery, while radio remains stubbornly attached to a shrinking pool of mainstream artists. Now, in my market here in Miami, we just had a recent change where one of the radio stations now has moved to classic hits. They were a classic rock station, but now they're adding more 80s and 90s tracks in their rotation. And they've, continued to position themselves with the same mascot, the same moniker, but they're now classic hits. Sean Ross over at Radio Insight actually put a great story about it, saying now we have 3 classic hit stations in the same market at Miami, Fort Lauderdale. So for older audience, the same 80s and 90s songs we have already. And the problem is we have the same thing going on here where I'm in West Palm Beach. Like the market here, we have multiple classic hit stations now. I mean, they haven't really gotten a good idea of what to do to change things out yet. They have not figured it out. The hit music stations, they will play a lot of gold and recurrent music and very little new. Because now they're having to continue to go ahead and tell the skew older audience because they have no choice. That's what's happening too. According to recent data from Luminate, that's where the songs we have over on Billboard are determined by, because that's the company that actually does the methodology and the algorithm to give the chart numbers that we get on a regular basis. The average age of songs on Billboard's Hot 100, which is still heavily influenced by radio airplay, continues to increase over the past decade. Streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple boast playlists with hyper-specific genres and a constant influx of new releases. But we have to have a middle ground. That's the part I think we're missing. Because then we would have new artists that could be hyper-specific, or we have new music that comes out and something will catch and get into the crossover. And then it can resonate the radio. Because how else are we getting any artists that are like brand new and all of a sudden, like for Shabuzi, you had to have the song be a record charting single for them to play it on radio. That's what you had to do. And so what else do you do now to kind of get that to go off? And the thing is that some of these artists, if they don't have somebody familiar with behind them, will never get to that point. It's very rare among the artists that you have that are being noticed. Okay. Let me tell you like this. If I look at the media-based top 40 album, top 40 chart right now for singles, currently Charlie XCX and Apple is a number 10 song. That's a song from last April or May, because it was a summer song. Pink Pony Club, Chapel Roan, but remember, it was like in March and April she started taking off. Streaming was just going crazy. Addison Rae Diet Pepsi, that's a song going back to the summer as well. Gracie Abrams, and That's So True. And she's not an artist that's been very popular. But again, there's some nepotism there. But no matter what, because she got some rub from Taylor Swift, that's what helped her kind of push herself up. Sabrina Carpenter had just had a great year. So she still has songs that come off of here and still are prominent. Billie Eilish's album from last year still continues to be prominent. So certain songs are continue to be played. So for them, it's not a problem. And they're on their bona fide artists. Like Sabrina Carpenter, last year, she became a bona fide artist. And so whatever she puts out now is guaranteed to going to be played by radio. Because now they can see that she's a bona fide artist and she is established. So they're happy to go and play her music now. She's accepted. She's in the club. But that's what they're going to do. So we know that with radio stations, they often rely on risk-averse playlists, established formulas to maintain listenership and attract advertisers. Well, if radio's not going to do it, somebody else needs to be it. That offers the heavy rotation of familiar hits and a reluctance to experiment with newer sounds. Mark Thompson, a music industry analyst, talks about how radio is a business, quote, and they're playing it safe. They're catering to a perceived mass audience, which often translates to playing the same songs we've heard 1,000 times before. And the influence of major record labels on radio programming cannot be ignored. Labels often prioritize established artists in commercially visible genres, further limiting the diversity of music reaching the airways. Plus, also, they don't put much investment into these artists anymore. They're not coddling and developing artists from the start. They stopped doing that. They want the short things, and they want to find somebody they think they can just get for an album, bring them in, get them out, and throw them away. So we need more help. Radio stations along with streaming services, where they kind of work together. Collaborative playlists. So here's some ideas that was brought in here by the AI. How about collaborative playlists created by DJs and algorithms that can introduce listeners to new artists and leverage the data-driven insights of streaming? Labels could go back to being artist development again over quick profits. Independent curators could gain influence where tastemakers are out there. Now, they're starting to build that now among, there's certain people I do see that are curators of new music, and I'll follow them, but they're not big enough and they're not influential enough for them to really make a difference. Sometimes it's a difference. Metrics also evolve beyond just airplay, and that's the part I think is the most important thing that can be done. The charts could incorporate streaming data, more social media engagement, and live performance metrics, and give a more holistic view of an artist's success in influencing radio programming. Billboard needs to change their methodology. It's time to change their numbers. They can't be radio heavy anymore. It doesn't make sense now. But if it were done, record labels could benefit. Artists would gain access to new audiences and opportunities. But this is all, happy talk. This is all potential approaches that could be done if administered, and it would be successful. Well, if that's not going to happen, then we need to see some things that actually happen that will make a change. Billboard could change their methodology right now, offer streaming to be much more subversive into the actual methodology, and make it where streaming makes more of a difference. So there might be more of a volatility of what goes up, what goes down, but that's fine. Let's have that happen. That's okay. Let it be sales and streaming that are the most important things on a chart. And then radio becomes the third metric now in the mix. Like, radio needs to be half of the calculation to what the charts are today. It should be that right now. It would freshen up the charts. It would freshen up music playlists, and all together we would hear some more music. And the artists would then be enthusiastic and ambitious about putting out new music with a chance of being able to chart prominently if the music is good. I think that would be a great idea. You want to get rid of the outdated formulas by radio? You get the FCC or you get Congress to finally enforce a new Music Modernization Act that forces the radio stations to pay more royalties to artists. You make them start paying more, make that a thing that happens, we can get somewhere. But we've heard nothing so far about the Copyright Act or royalty payments for musicians. We have heard nothing since June? Because we did hear that the House Judiciary Committee of Republicans was doing a hearing last June on courts, intellectual property, and the internet, which would have also helped be a conversation for artists and music, but it never did. Nothing's been talked about it. There's a story that came out from Hypebot that actually talked about this, where Congress is more worried about getting AM radio to stay in every car than worrying about finally paying in U.S. musicians when their songs are played on the radio. The American Music Fairness Act has been out there for 3 years, and it would have it would have the U.S. join virtually every other country in the world paying musicians when their songs are broadcast. If passed, radio stations that have under $1.5 million in annual revenue and whose parent companies fall under less than $10 million in annual revenue would pay a special rate of $2 per day, $500 annually, to play unlimited music. And other exemptions would be public, college, and other non-commercial stations and other very small stations paying $10 per year to play the music unlimited. But then these big, fat corporate radio stations would have to pay their fair share. David Newhoff did an op-ed for TheHill.com and said, quote, "It's not just the U.S. market because American broadcasters don't pay royalties to foreign artists. Foreign broadcasters don't pay royalties to American artists. And the relationship in the AM Radio in Every Vehicle Act and the American Music Fairness Act may be more than just bad optics for Congress," end quote. So AM radio, keeping it around, would be good for the iHeart radios and Cumulus's of the world because they have AM stations that are all talk. And there are trade groups across the music industry that are trying to urge voters to get this up and going. So yes, the American Music Fairness Act, nobody's talking about it. Maybe there's a change right now among the new presidential administration, the new Congress that's in place, if this is something that comes into play. But if it happens at all, if we get that chance to see something like that, we get the crossover we want. Then we enforce that makes the music industry have to go ahead and start working, makes the radio industry have to start working. Because allowing the radio stations to not pay royalties, if they honestly were given, if they had the American Music Fairness Act that would pass, and these big radio stations had to go and take care of the royalties, iHeartMedia, Odyssey, all these other companies, they will be unloading stations by the dozen, because they wouldn't be able to afford this anymore. That's something I think that could very well happen. And I hope that, since we've had some stagnation among Congress to not do anything about this bill, maybe we can see something going on down the line. But after this conversation, it's more than obvious we can't expect changes. There's just got to be certain changes that are going to force the music industry and the radio industry to pay attention to streaming, pay attention to artists, and do something more. Come back next week for the Broadcasters Podcast. Remember, the content is king, and the control of your content is in your hands.